Hey there, it's Jonathan with another video, and welcome to athletespecific.com. I got an email last week from a parent with a very long story about how her son's team was in a summer lacrosse league. This was a big game for her son, who was a goalie, and at the final game of this tournament, where there were supposedly a bunch of college coaches. The ref made a bad call, and it resulted in a penalty on her son's team. They got scored on, they lost, and they didn't win the tournament. And this parent felt that because the ref made that bad call, that her son's college dreams were going to fail. And this was really disappointing to me, because one of the main concepts I like to teach is to take 100% responsibility for everything that goes on. Now, what's really hard here is that, as an athlete on the field of play, you can do this, but also parents have to kind of espouse this principle all the time as well, right? So in this case, I was telling the mom, and I wrote about this in my book. I was telling the mom about how, if you looked back on that game, that whole game, there was probably a number of things that happened in that game that, if they had changed slightly, if her son, I asked if her son had made a bad outlet pass earlier in the game, and she said, yeah, he missed one. I said, well, that one little thing could change the entire outcome of the game. So the fact that it all came down to the end of the game, and they felt that the ref made a bad play or made a bad call on the play, well, if you take this idea of 100% responsibility and you look back on all the things that you could have changed, you retain power over those things. Right? If you just walk away and you play the blame game and you say, well, we would have won if it weren't for the ref, well, there's nothing now on you that you need to be responsible for. And so therefore there's no learning. There's no improvement. That you don't walk away going like, oh wow, if I had just done this better on that play, well, what could I do to make that play better? Then you're always in learning mode, right? So this idea of taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens is really hard, and it's a lot of work. Now, one of the things I like to tell parents about is hey, have you ever driven somewhere and been late and blamed the traffic? And pretty much 100% of the time, people say, yeah, of course, we were late for that practice because the traffic was rough. Well, my question is well, why didn't you leave 5 minutes early? Well, we didn't know traffic was going to be bad. Well, why didn't you just build in a buffer zone? Well, we didn't think to do that. Well, exactly. So if you take the responsibility of now putting yourself into a buffer situation where you always leave a little bit early, then you don't have that situation in the end. You have control over it. You're not at the whims of the traffic in this case, right? You have control. And when you have control, you have power over everything. So what I wanted to leave with this mom and this goalie in particular was that if you take 100% responsibility, then you still walk away and realize that there's things for you to work on. Now, along the lines of this athlete wanting to get recruited and get exposed and things like that, what I reassured to her is that, if your son played well enough, there's going to be coaches that are interested in that, in her athlete. They're not all of a sudden going to say, that's it, forget it, we're not going to take that kid. He only just made it to the final with his team, who then lost, on a bad call by the ref. He's obviously a pretty good goalie. It's not like everything's been thrown out the window because of one play. So I encourage her now to take 100% responsibility, and to have her son take 100% responsibility and reach out to all those coaches who were there, to the schools that he was interested in, where he wanted to play, not to just kind of throw it all out the window because of one bad call by a ref. So when you take 100% responsibility, then you have control, you have power. You don't blame the coach, you don't blame the ref, you don't blame the weather, you don't blame the traffic. You take it all on yourself and go, what can I do to improve so that next time I'm not in that situation again? Because that's what great athletes do. They prepare themselves to be the best they can be in any situation. They don't, leave it to the gods, sort of thing, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Listen, 100% responsibility is tough. It's hard. It's pretty heavy duty, but when you do it, good things happen. So do me a favor, send me an email or leave me a comment below where you see this video. Tell me about a time when you either didn't take 100% responsibility or you did take it and the change that it made in you. I always love to hear those stories. So I'll see you next week. I'm Coach Edwards. Talk to you soon.